Chapter 345. What does the assistant think? As the question was suddenly tossed to Yudhir, who had been silently listening all this time, Pruel's gaze also turned towards him. With a look that held both desperation and surprise, Yudhir felt a slight confusion. It was clear that Kishir's will was almost determined, so he couldn't understand why his opinion needed to be publicly heard. I don't think it's a matter for me to comment on. Say anything you want. There must be something you were curious about while listening, isn't there? It was clear that Kishore wouldn't let go without hearing something from him. Either thought for a moment before speaking. Understood. May I then ask a question? As long as it's something I can answer, Pruel quickly replied. From what I heard, it doesn't seem like Duke Tane had been interested in investing originally, but I wonder if my understanding is correct. My father? I know he has always liked to gamble. Pruel responded, his eyes focused far away, as if recalling something. He was deeply immersed in various hobbies, from horse racing tournaments to various gambling games held at the nobles' gatherings. He still frequents those places, but began to take investing seriously only a few years ago after a trade related investment in the southern region greatly succeeded. It was when the maritime trade between the southern country and the empire was hugely successful. As Kishir mumbled as if knowing something, Pruel answered, Yes, that's correct. From that time on, foreign merchants began to frequent the house of Tain. My father places great trust in the information and advice they provide. He even said that they shared the family's interests. Yes, I know that their influence has been exerted on many of the current investments. Yudhir looked back on the memories of his past life. Since Emperor Kashtan took the throne, the empire had been trading with other countries much more actively for a while. Kashtan has poured effort into commercial policies with the goal of recovering the devastated western region and initiating changes in the empire, receiving praise for his new direction, completely opposite to the previous imperial policies. Yudhir remembered that Emperor Kashtan was very pleased with this praise. If the advice was from Duke Tane's side, I roughly understand why the family didn't fail. The money invested to achieve that policy was truly enormous. However, the ambitious policy did not end well. The failure was due to the fact that Kashtan's policy did not bring about effective results without sufficient disaster recovery. Only a few, including the nobles, made money during that period, and the collapsed villages and forests in the west took a long time to recover. As those praising and criticizing Emperor Kashtan became starkly divided, Yudhir had to visit the imperial palace more frequently to receive secret missions. It was a chaotic time. Yudhir exhaled deeply, erasing the uncomfortable memory. Pruel asked if there was anything more he was curious about, and Yudhir shook his head, thanking him with a mere expression of gratitude. After hearing Pruel's words, Kishir had been deeply lost in thought. Yudhir wondered what extraordinary thoughts might be passing beneath his long, golden shadowed eyelashes, but he silently waited until Kishir emerged from his contemplation and opened his mouth. Indeed, then it seems the time has come to make a choice. Upon hearing Kishir's words, Pruel began to tense up sharply. Tain's firstborn. Yes, just like Apeto's third son Revlin, I cannot accept you as a member right away, but it's possible to grant temporary membership until the official recruitment next time. Pruel's eyes, which had been rigidly fixed at the beginning, trembled at the very last word. He slowly opened his mouth to ask if he understood correctly. Does that mean It means the deal is concluded. Wow. Finally, Pruel's face revealed all sorts of emotions that he had hidden until now. Kishir smoothly continued speaking. By the Emperor's grace and the name of God, I swear to ensure your safety and protection along with your siblings. The path ahead may be perilous, but if the youngest, who finds it hard to hide his abilities, wants it, he can be protected within the cavalry in advance. Do you want that? After a moment, unable to speak, he immediately knelt and pressed his lips to the hem of Kishir's garment. Yes, please, I sincerely thank you for your mercy. While watching this, Yudhir felt a very strange sensation. He didn't know what had happened to Pruel in his previous life, but since his younger sister had become the successor, his awakening must have come at some cost. Whether he chose this path himself or was forced into it, it hadn't ended well. But now, in this life, it seemed that it might not happen again. The realization suddenly loomed large. Because Revlin, he had died quietly in his previous life, survived, and proudly stood in the court, another person was standing here now. The chance to protect those who had courageously stepped forward and moved towards a great future was all because Kishir Lahore was alive and well. Yudhir looked at Kishir, who was gesturing Pruel to stand up. As he took a deep breath, his heart continued to beat loudly. Where are your siblings now? The Tain children are in the capital, but Napoleon, actually, he came with me, Pruel said with a slightly embarrassed face. Yudhir was not the only one who was surprised by this. He came with you? I didn't hear that. Even Baron Wilhelm doesn't know Napoleon is here. He is currently using his ability, so he is not easily noticeable to others. What's the ability? Kishir asked, not hiding his interest, and Pruel obediently answered. It's similar to mine, but there is some difference. He can only transform into a specific animal, like a cat we used to keep. Perhaps because of their similar abilities, Napoleon only found stability when he was near Pruel. Otherwise, he couldn't control his ability properly. So, Pruel had brought his sibling transformed into a cat all the way here. He seems to find it harder to maintain his original appearance after awakening his ability. When he is with me, perhaps because our abilities are similar, he stabilizes quickly. But with others, he cannot control it properly. It might be due to an innate illness from birth. It was an extraordinarily rare case among those with transformation abilities. If someone was more comfortable being a cat, then it was probably better for them to come here than stay in the capital. It wasn't like he had any significant offensive abilities, and if he could only transform into a cat, I could understand why his sibling would be so worried. Kishir's expression changed slightly, as if he had a similar thought. Then I hope to meet him tomorrow. The sooner, the better. It will ease your mind, I think. I would truly appreciate that. I will come find you tomorrow, so wait for me. Until then, I would like you to investigate the secret trade of the Tain house which is taking place here. It was Kishir's first request and a test for the one who had boarded the ship. A sharp look passed between the eyes of Pruel as if he had caught on to the meaning. I have heard news that His Grace discovered circumstances where 3 knights of our house were killed in Great Serene Forest, accompanied by his cavalry. Is that what you're referring to? One could say that, although Baron Wilhelm spoke as if he had no idea what they were doing in Great Serene Forest. I think otherwise. He had already moved beyond thinking otherwise and was gathering evidence. But he did not mention that part, probably to test Pruell's abilities. Pruell seemed to observe his thoughts for a moment before standing up and bowing politely. I understand. I know what I must do. I will strive to live up to your expectations and await your visit tomorrow. Either escorted Pruell, who looked much happier than when he had arrived, to the door of the lodging. Pruell thanked Uther with a flushed face. I really owe you one today. If not for you, His Grace the Duke wouldn't have listened so easily. I didn't do anything. Nonsense. Because I saw you first, I was able to have a certainty beyond my imagination about what kind of person Duke Paleta is. After a small smile, he left one last meaningful remark. I'm glad I saw you myself. I have never looked forward to tomorrow before, but now, for the first time, I am excited. He transformed into the appearance of a servant, as he had been when he first came in, and left the annex. Judith made sure he got back all right before returning to the lodging. Kishir was looking at the fireplace, where no fire had been lit, lost in thought. Commander, are you tired? No, just lost in thought for a moment. Kishir finally looked up and smiled. They say they don't often use magic stoves in the West, and it seems true. This stove isn't for magic stones, but an old wooden wall stove left as it was. I see. Uther's response was slightly delayed, having never paid much attention to stoves in his life. Now that he thought about it, it seemed that magic stone stoves, usually set apart in a corner, were rarely seen in the West. It was in stark contrast to Kishir's office, where the magic stone stove was always in the middle of the room, always burning magic stones. Do you know what happened when magic stone stove was first invented?